NOS and RA with VRJCRR Kepti caret T filter 2I. The creation of the BL.optimos caret acrk new caret WH rho phi thy sunt fegeloi la lirfit FFW iliot Epidus 5 asterisk M/NOS and RA with VRJCRR Kepti caret T filter 2I. I build JU3TLF caret on right JTPPSH dot insivco JJOS dots fuak kyri UUAIOHRI tofidi IBT farofo or iadro tissel flow beatoyake. YFTDS. The American Revolution began in April 1775 when the British Army and a rebel militia began shooting at each other in the towns of Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. The war's early battles were fought by local militia groups of men recruited from the villages and towns of a colony, but this loose network of poorly trained and quickly assembled militia did not seem strong enough to take on the British Army. A stronger army would have to be organized if the colonies were to have any hope of winning the war. A line of British soldiers fires on an angry crowd of unarmed American colonists. This would Profethetius/Jace my CIU asterisk Yowejin A and Rochehead come to be known as the Boston Massacre. 1764. Several American colonies, angered over England's policy of taxing colonists without offering them representation in Parliament, refused to import English goods. 1765. Organized protests develop over England's attempts to tax the colonists through the Stamp and Sugar Acts. March 5, 1770. British troops stationed in Boston open fire on a group of angry colonists, killing 5. September 5, 1774. The First Continental Congress meets in Philadelphia. April 19, 1775. American colonists and British troops exchange shots in Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts, the first major skirmishes of the war. The First Continental Congress meets in Philadelphia's Carpenter's Hall on September 5, 1774. Armed American colonists known as Minutemen fire on British soldiers during the First Battle of the American Revolution. On June 7, 1775, the Second Continental Congress, the government of the 13 colonies decided that a regular, European-style army was needed to wage war with Great Britain. The militia forces in Cambridge, across the Charles River from Boston, were used to form the core of a continental army. Other colonies were asked to raise troops to help strengthen the new army. On June 15, 1775, George Washington, a Virginia delegate to the Continental Congress, was unanimously elected to command the Continental Army. At this point, the Continental Army numbered 16,000 men. All new. This June 1775 document issued by the Second Continental Congress names George Washington as General and Commander-in-Chief of the Army of the United Colonies. It is signed by John Hancock, who would become one of the most famous signers of the Declaration of Independence. Englanders. The main army would operate in the mid-Atlantic colonies. The Northern Army defended the colony of New York, while the Southern Army was stationed in the Carolinas and Georgia. The Eastern Army covered New England. 1 May 1, 1775. The Second Continental Congress meets in Philadelphia. John Hancock is elected President of Congress. June 10, 1775. John Adams, a Massachusetts delegate to the Continental Congress, proposes that the Boston area militia becomes the core of a new Continental Army. At top is a scene depicting the Battle of Lexington, while the scene at bottom depicts the Battle of Concord. April 19, 1775. Following the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the British Army retreats to Boston. The city is surrounded by rebel militia and remains under siege for more than a year. June 15, 1775, George Washington is nominated to lead the Continental Army. The Battle of Bunker Hill, the newly formed Continental Army's first major test, occurred on June 16, 1775. That night, more than 1,000 soldiers marched to Breed's Hill in Charlestown. On the next morning, they moved to nearby Bunker Hill. From these two heights, the army hoped to gain control of the city of Boston and its harbor. When the British noticed the colonists, their ships in the harbor began to fire on the Continental soldiers, and the British army charged the hills. Half of the 2,200 British fighters were either killed or wounded, but they gained control over Bunker Hill. June 12, 1775, British General Thomas Gage declares that anyone who helps the rebel colonists will be considered a traitor to the king. July 3, 1775, General George Washington arrives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and takes command of the new Continental Army. This is a portrait of King George III, 1738 to 1820. August 23, 1775, King George III rejects a petition sent by the colonists seeking a peaceful resolution of the crisis. He declares all 13 colonies to be in rebellion. Fall 1775, the Continental Congress begins to plan for the creation of a navy and orders the construction of 4 armed ships. OFTFZ action at Bunkf.Rs Hill, on the 1751 of June 177 carat, between HLS Majesty Triovs under the command of Major General Howe, and the rebel forces, by LLEUT Pace, of the engineers, who acted as aide-de-camp to General Howe in that action. RHFCR*. The British beat them back, however, and kept control of the city.
Charles River.
In the summer of 1775, the American rebels tried to invade Canada, England's other North American colony. The colonists hoped to bring Canada to their side in the Revolution, creating a united front against British forces. Climate and the time of year worked against this plan, however. The Continental Congress made the decision to invade in the summer, but by the time the expedition was organized and on, American General Richard Montgomery, Center, dies in battle during an unsuccessful attempt by the Continental Army to take Quebec City in Canada. With this defeat, the colonists' hope of bringing Canada over to their side in the war was dashed. The move, an extremely harsh winter was underway. After gaining control of Montreal, the Continental Army launched a disastrous attack upon Quebec City on December 31, 1775. The army was defeated, and the expedition ended in starvation, disease, and death by spring. 11F June 1, 1775, the Continental Congress agrees on a plan to invade Canada. August 1775, Major General Richard Montgomery prepares soldiers of the Continental Army to invade Canada by way of Lake Champlain. September 1775, General Washington picks Colonel Benedict Arnold to invade Canada by way of Maine and Quebec City. September December 1775, both Arnold and Montgomery lose many men to hunger and cold on the way to Canada, but Montreal is captured. December 31, 1775, Arnold and Montgomery attack Quebec City in the middle of a blizzard. The Americans are defeated. Canada remains in British hands. 11 American Colonel Benedict Arnold led the invasion of Canada. Recapturing Boston. The British had held Boston since 1775, though they were surrounded by hostile armed colonists. Because the Continental Army did not have enough forces to attack the city, there was a long standoff. Finally, on the night of March 4, 1776, General George Washington sent 2,000 men to take control of Dorchester Heights, which overlooked Boston and the harbor. When the sun rose the next morning, the British saw all the guns pointed down at them and realized the Continental Army could destroy every one of their ships in the harbor. They decided to evacuate the city and sail to Halifax, Canada. This was Washington's first major military victory. Nearly all of New England was now in American hands. George Washington, Center, on Wild Horse, watches British ships evacuate Boston Harbor on March 17, 1776. January 9, 1776. Thomas Paine publishes a pamphlet entitled Common Sense in Philadelphia. In it, he strongly criticizes King George III. The pamphlet inspires many to join the fight for independence. February 27, 1776. The Continental Congress establishes the Southern Department of the Continental Army, which is stationed in Virginia, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Common sense, ADDFTKMID to that inhabitants of America, on the following internut subjects. VII. Of the origin and defin of government in general, with coercive remarks o the English con and itu jacuage. Of monarchy and hereditary Sockafian. 3. Thought. On the prefant state of American affairs star. 4. Of the prefant ability of America, with foam miscellaneous revolk and ioas. Man knows no mailer fair ceaing high absent, or t-bof cum choke and common good ordain. Tnomso star. Philadelphia, Thint, Ltd. Sold, by R. Bell, in 3rd Street. Irvhead.xxvr. This is the title page of Thomas Paine's 1776 pamphlet Common Sense. It was widely read and inspired many Americans to desire independence from Britain. March 1776. American General Henry Knox arrives outside Boston with cannons and other artillery that he and his men have hauled all the way from Fort Ticonderoga in New York. March 4, 1776. British General William Howe evacuates Boston, and the British sail to Halifax, Canada. Henry Knox. The war shifts south. The British thought that most American colonists outside of New England were still loyal to England and not interested in fighting against their mother country. After evacuating Boston, the British drew up a war plan that involved attacking places like New York and the southern colonies, where support for the rebellion seemed weaker. As part of this plan, the British attacked southern forts by land and sea. Bad timing and even worse weather worked against the British, however. It was winter by the time they sent ships to support their land and naval forces in the south. These ships were scattered by storms. In the meantime, loyal is expecting help from the British were defeated by Patriot forces. Commodore Isaac Hopkins, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Navy, stands with his officers on the deck of his ship, the USS Cabot. April 1776. The first British ships arrive in Cape Fear, North Carolina. May 1776. British ships arrive at Charleston, South Carolina, 6 weeks later than expected. Meanwhile, 6 Continental Army regiments arrived to reinforce the Carolina defenses. June 1776. March 1776. Southern Loyalists, expecting the arrival of the British fleet, rise up and are defeated by the Patriots. The British ships carrying General Charles Cornwallis and his men had been scattered and delayed by storms at sea. William Moultrie, a colonel in the 2nd South Carolina Regiment, leads the defense of Fort Sullivan, which guards the harbor in Charleston. The ORL, built by Moultrie,
brother, you know you gotta
the
sit
British
me
attack. The British fail in their attempt to take Fort Sullivan, which defends Charleston. Losing New York but gaining New Jersey on July 4, 1776, representatives of the 13 colonies approved the Declaration of Independence and declared themselves free and independent states. This thrilling moment was soon replaced by hard reality. George Washington and the Continental Army lost important battles on Long Island and in White Plains, outside New York City. Washington was forced to retreat to Pennsylvania, and the British seized New York. On December 26, 1776, however, Washington made his famous crossing of the Delaware River into New Jersey and overpowered a fort staffed by Hessian soldiers German forces hired. Though the Declaration of Independence was officially adopted on July 4, 1776, it was not actually signed until August 2, 1776. This print shows delegates of the Continental Congress getting ready to sign the document by England to fight alongside the British Army. Washington then launched successful surprise attacks on the British in Trenton and Princeton. New Jersey was now clear of most British forces. *JT, Summer 1776. Hoping to make New York City a base of operations, the British capture Staten Island in New York Harbor and prepare for an attack on Brooklyn. August 27, 1776. General Washington is defeated in the Battle of Long Island and retreats to Manhattan. September 15, 1776. Not wanting to become trapped on the island of Manhattan, Washington retreats north of the city, and the British occupy the island. October 28, 1776. General Washington loses the Battle of White Plains, outside New York City. He retreats through New Jersey to Pennsylvania. December 31, 1776. Washington crosses the Delaware River into New Jersey and launches surprise attacks that drive the British out of New Jersey. American General Hugh Mercer leads the surprise attack against the British in Princeton, New Jersey. A new alliance strengthens a weakening army. The British and the Continental armies often had trouble finding enough soldiers to fight the war. British reinforcements had to cross the 3,000-mile wide, 4,828-kilometer wide, Atlantic Ocean, a journey that took many weeks. Because the pay was poor, the Continental soldiers could not afford to enlist in the army for more than 1 year. For this reason, soldiers were constantly leaving the Continental Army, and new recruits had to be found to replace them. In October 1776, the Continental Congress voted to increase the size of the army to 60,000 men, who would serve for 3 years. In reality, however, Washington could usually count on only 15,000 soldiers at any given time during the war. /VJ7 and VY Ontario /NYLL%*. C. 0 *Y____YI pi *1C. This map shows the movement of British troops under Generals William Howe and John Burgoyne. While Howe was able to capture Philadelphia, Burgoyne was forced to surrender Saratoga, New York, to the Continental Army. A new alliance strengthens a weakening army. July 2, 1777, the British recapture Fort St. Ticonderoga. In England, King George III hears of it and tells his wife, Queen Charlotte, "I have beat them. I have beaten all the Americans." 5 IA October 4, 1777. General Washington retreats after losing the battle. Germantown in Pennsylvania. This is a 177th map of Fort Ticonderoga and the surrounding area. September 11, 1777. The Continental Army retreats during the battle at Brandywine Creek in Pennsylvania. The British march on to Philadelphia and occupy the city. The Continental Congress flees. 1,777 fewer soldiers are serving in the Continental Army than in 1,776. Gaining a powerful ally before the Continental Army's victories in New Jersey, the British had won most of the war's battles. Yet, even in defeat, the Continental Army was wearing the British down, inflicting heavy casualties, deaths and injuries. Unlike the rebels, the British could not find reinforcements locally and quickly. In October 1777, the Continental Army took advantage of this weakness in the British Army. On October 8, the British and Americans fought in Saratoga, in upstate New York. The British were worn out and short on supplies. Eventually, they were forced to surrender and return to England. This victory convinced the French to join the war on the side of the colonists. Mid-October 1777, following the defeat at Germantown, Washington and his army settled for the winter in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Many soldiers will die of cold, starvation, and disease during this especially harsh winter. However, the army also receives training from European soldiers and becomes a stronger, more professional army. October 17, 1777, British Major General John Burgoyne surrenders to American General Horatio Gates following his defeat at the Battle of Saratoga. General George Washington stands with some of the ragged soldiers in his army during the harsh winter of 1777 to 1778 in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Many of the American soldiers were freezing, starving, and shoeless. To the left of Washington stand members of the Continental Congress who have come to observe and report on conditions in the camp. November 15, 1777, the Continental Congress adopts the Articles of Confederation, creating a formal union among the 13 independent states. June 17, 1778, France sides with the American rebels and declares war on England. J1. The war's end. British Lieutenant Colonel Bonestret Tarleton helped capture Charleston, South Carolina, for the British. Below his portrait, Tarleton is seen rallying his troops. By 1779, most of the war's fighting had shifted to the south. The British hoped that if they won some battles in the southern states, they could turn the tide and the people there would throw their support behind them. The British were wrong. There were more patriots in the South than loyalists. Though the British won most of the southern battles, they were losing many of their men to death and injury. Last great British victory in the war was the capture of Charleston, South Carolina. There they captured 5,400 rebels and 4 American ships. 22. March-July 1778, British troops and Loyalist militia fight the Continental Army, loyal militiamen, and French forces in Georgia and the Carolinas. The British win most of the battles but suffer heavy casualties. May 1, 1780, the British, led by General George Clinton, lay siege to Charleston, South Carolina, and take the city. It is the worst American defeat of the war. George Clinton. October 5, 1780, Washington sends Nathaniel Greene to command the Southern Department of the Continental Army. 1781, the United States, with the help of French land and naval forces, finally gained the advantage in the war. The British, believing that a battle was soon to be fought in New York City, moved most of their fleet northward. As a result, they were unprepared for a land end. Cedar Lee, we/RFFJC/TI/YTT/EVE/A/TRS/FIRE-TP/FIHRC
Right, I was thinking that George Clinton, I heard it.
%NNFSRP Cookies J. CXPC Charles Cart OKUI1 IRTI NRI.JIIRG/SJIOLI.ARMKK Cominer DRH on E/Carat UD T-Pound JCS//W and N and P carat /TFFTPFJS U/1B/LIJF Sir. France
For some reason, this page is omitted, but it's still playing it because it's on the audio. Isn't that crazy? Listen up.
ESK-CNISTLAMEA 8 Pripnum asterisk IAIMCC Ongtalomuantilco Parliament IFAFCM.HICIQ true/PTMV as I at back KT org to enda J Factor W.BJVUFM J for your LFTMX orth /I/NRP/FERT J SILTIAINIV KF8 Cattle K Autorixi Yuk. This is a French map that illustrates the victory of General George Washington and the Continental Army, which defeated General Charles Cornwallis and his British forces at the Battle of Lloydtown in the autumn of 1781. Cornwallis's surrender marked the end of the war and the beginning of American independence after 6 years of fighting. See attack by the Americans and French at Yorktown, Virginia. The British lost key fortifications, and British General Charles Cornwallis soon surrendered to General Washington. With this loss, the British realized they were not going to win the war. It was now clear that the American states would keep their independence. IF July 1781 French and American forces planned to recapture New York City from the British but decide against it. Instead, Washington begins marching his army toward Yorktown, Virginia. French forces march toward Yorktown by a different route. IW August-September 1781 a French fleet sails for Yorktown. Expecting an attack on New York instead, British General Charles Cornwallis is caught by surprise. His army in Yorktown is trapped by the French fleet, while American and French land forces swarm toward them. October 19, 1781 Cornwallis surrenders to Washington. The Revolutionary War is won by the Americans. July 11, 1782 the British evacuate Savannah, Georgia. 4 months later they evacuate Wilmington, North Carolina. The Continental Army marches through Lower Manhattan on November 25, 1783. On that day, the remaining British forces in the United States were evacuated from New York City. Peace and freedom. Though the 1781 Battle of Yorktown was the last major battle of the Revolutionary War, the Continental Army remained busy fighting small skirmishes with British troops and pockets of remaining loyalists. In 1782, a treaty was drafted that called for England to recognize American independence and remove all its troops from the 13 states. It was also forced to give up its territory lying between the Mississippi River and the Allegheny Mountains, immediately doubling the size of the United States. The Continental Congress ratified, agreed to the treaty on April 15, 1783, and the war was officially over. By June, most of the Continental Army was disbanded. Plus September 27, 1782 formal peace negotiations between England, France, and the United States begin in Paris, France. November 30, 1782 a preliminary treaty recognizing American independence is signed. April 11, 1783 the Continental Congress announces an end of hostilities with England. September 3, 1783 the Treaty of Paris is signed, formally ending the Revolutionary War. November 25, 1783 the last British soldiers in the United States are evacuated from New York City. December 23, 1783 George Washington resigns his commission in the Continental Army. General George Washington says goodbye to his officers in December 1783 at Frunce's Tavern in New York City. He had retired from the Continental Army and would become the new nation's first president in 1789.
We know that's a lie.
Timelines map the road to victory. Many people use timelines to help make studying history easier. A timeline lists the most important events of a period and the dates on which they occurred. It shows the events in order, starting with the earliest and ending with the latest. A timeline does not give all of the information about each event, only the basic facts. It provides a quick idea of what happened during a certain period of time and how all the events fit together and led to a certain result. For example, we can follow the main events of the American Revolution beginning with the first shots fired between ragged American rebels and British soldiers at Lexington and Concord to the last major battle at Yorktown in which British forces surrendered to General George Washington and the Continental Army. The timeline helps us understand how one event caused another and contributed to the making of history. Glossary Alliance, an agreement between two nations to work together for defense or to be on the same side in a war. Continental Army, Continentale Army, the army organized by the Continental Congress to fight for independence from Great Britain. Fleet, a group of ships from a nation's navy. George III, George III, The King of Great Britain at the time of the American Revolution. Great Britain, Great Britain, England and the other countries that belong to it, including Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and the colonies, loyalists, the American colonists who were not in favor of independence from Great Britain. Militia, MLIHSHU, fighting forces organized in the colonies at the local level. Many of the farmers and townspeople of colonial towns belonged to local militia. Some militia fought beside the British Army in battles with the French and Indians before the American Revolution. Focal militia fought alongside the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War when needed. Patriots, the American colonists who were in favor of independence from Great Britain.
So, a little bit of clarity there. I want you guys to check this out. I'm going to go over some of these records. We're going to start right here on this page. It says the service records consist of a jacket envelope for each soldier, labeled with his name, his rank, and the unit or special corps in which he served. The jacket envelope contains card abstracts of entries related to the soldier as found in the original muster rolls, pay rolls, rank rolls, inspection, provision, and clothing returns, receipts for pay and bounty, accounts for subsistence, pay, rations, clothing, and ordnance. Abstracts of muster and payrolls and correspondence abstracts were also made from 24 of the numbered record books in the War Department. I have about 18. I haven't found the rest of them, but I have most of the records. Collection of the Revolutionary War records, volume 1 through 11, 13 and a half, 136 and a half, 139, 142, 43, 45, 47 and a half, 1 half, 170 through 173, 175, and 176. There are cross references for soldiers' names that appear in the records under more than one spelling, which we know that the spelling has been, because these people were illiterate, right? They couldn't spell everything correctly. Frequently preceding the jacket envelope for individual soldiers in each organizational unit are similar envelopes containing caption cards for the muster rolls, for the payrolls, and other records. The cards show the exact caption of documents that were copied for each organization and certificates of officers verifying the accuracy of the records. Jacket envelopes for general pay abstracts precede those for other caption cards, and printed caption cards for general pay abstracts usually reproduce the entire pay abstract. The jacket envelopes with caption cards for an entire regiment precede those containing caption cards for the field and staff and individual companies. The compiled records are arranged under the designation of continental troops. The designation of continental troops or a state name. They're under by organization, and they're under alphabetically by the soldier's surname. The military organization designated continental troops. The continental troops were generally state units adopted by the Continental Congress in the first years of the Revolutionary War, or units raised in more than one state. Regular units of the Continental Army that were raised in only one state are generally listed with the state's military organization. The organizations for the Continental troops and for each state are arranged in two major groups. According to the size of the organization, the larger military units, including the regiments, the battalions, the detachments, the corps, the brigades, the legions, precede the smaller units, such as the companies, the parties, the troops, or the commands. The companies, parties, troops, or commands, however, that were an integral part of larger organizations are generally arranged within the larger organizations. Within the two major groups, according to the size, units with numerical designations precede the units with nominal designations. Thus, the arrangement of the compiled service records for South Carolina organizations is as follows. The 1st Regiment, 6th Regiment, Casey's Regiment, Thompson's Regiment, 1st Company, 3rd Company, and Butler's Company, Captain Michael Watson's Company. An appendix to this introductory list and the units of the Continental troops and of each state in 3 categories. All units were numerically designations. All units with nominal designations and miscellaneous units Organizations with both numerical and nominal designations are listed under both categories, but are arranged on microfilm according to the number designation. When several organizations have the same number designation, an alphabetical order is followed with battalions, corps, and detachments that precede the regiments, and the artillery in regiments preceding infantry, regiments, and regiments of light dragons, and regiments of light dragons. Because the military units of the Continental Army are frequently reorganized, there were sometimes several series of compiled service records for the different formations of the unit, all bearing the same name or number designation. When the records for each formation are maintained separately, the year the formation was organized is sometimes includes, in parentheses, in its title. The Connecticut records, for instance, include the 7th Regiment, 1775, and the 7th Regiment of 1776. That is a different book. I do have that record as well. There's so many pages on these records. It's kind of hard to go back and forth. So I'll probably just go over this one today and probably try to get to another one another time. So let's go back into that. Because the military units of the Continental Army were frequently reorganized, there were some, I just read that, I'm sorry. When consolidation of several regiments were made, the new organization was sometimes labeled with the designations of the several regiments involved. An example is the Virginia organization designed the 4th, 8th, and the 12th Regiment. The compiled service records for several Virginia consolidated regiments contain empty jacket envelopes, so their records were missing, labeled with the names of the soldiers in the regiment and the location of the jacket envelopes containing all the card abstracts for those particular soldiers. Okay. Military organization without a number of name designations are arranged at the end of the series to which they belong. Thus, the Regiment Extraordinarily Maryland is placed at the end of the alphabetical series of the Maryland regiments. Miscellaneous smaller organizations such as the Field Artillery Company, New Hampshire, are arranged at the end of the alphabetical series of companies for New Hampshire. The soldiers' names that are incomplete due to the mutilation or deterioration of the original records are arranged at the end of the compiled service records for their units, soldiers, employees, or their other personnel of the American Army with only a first name in the original records are listed by the same in the compiled service records. So this is probably why there's so many records. I was wondering why there were so many particular different records in the same area. So that makes sense. At the end of the records for the Continental Troop is a series labeled Miscellaneous, consisting of compiled records of soldiers' names and cannot be identified with a particular military unit. The series also includes high-ranking officers and the American Army who are associated with many military organizations. Likewise, a miscellaneous series labeled merely with the state's names exists at the end of the records for each state, except for Georgia. I have the Georgia records as well. To serve a similar function, for instance, the series labeled Pennsylvania was taken from such records as a list of officers who were paroled prisoners of Long Island, a list of prisoners from different regiments in General Wayne's division of return of the Pennsylvania line, entitled to donation lands, donation lands, really, reported by the late Comptroller General, and an account book entitled The State of Pennsylvania Against the United States for Depreciation on Pay of the Army. You guys hear that? The State of Pennsylvania against the United States for depreciation on pay of the Army. You hear that? All right. The designations of the military units in this microfilm publication are generally reproduced exactly as they appear on compiled service records and on index cards. I will maybe show you guys a few index cards before we get out of here, because it definitely labels everything a little more proficiently. They have a lot of information on the card, so we'll check that out possibly maybe on the part 2. Within record group 93, several name indexes contain the entries from the military service records are reproduced. In this microfilm publication, the most comprehensive name index to the records is available as on the national publication of the General Index of Compiled Military Service Records of Revolutionary War Soldiers, M8 60. Various parts of the general index are also available separately as follows: index to the compiled service records of the Revolutionary War soldiers who served in the American War in North Carolina, so on and so forth. Maryland, Rhode Island, so on and so forth. That's why I said there are many records. I have most of them, but there's like 5 I have not found yet. The original record and copy of the Revolutionary War compiled service records are available in the Revolutionary War rolls, so on and so forth, numbered in the record books concerning the military advances, so on and so forth. Pension and the bounty land warrant. This is important. Hold on, let me go back. I think I was skipping too far. Hold on. Okay. Now, pension and bounty land warrant application files based on the service of the Revolutionary War military and the naval personnel are in the records of the Veterans Administration Record Group 15. They have been reproduced as Revolutionary War pension and bounty land warrant application files M804 and selected records from the Revolutionary War pension and the bounty land warrant application files. Now, I talk to you guys about this all the time, right? Then I tell you guys that you guys have all of this information. Oh, let me check with the chat. You guys are in here talking. I'm so sorry. I was on the other page. All the information I keep telling you guys where your name goes back to the heresy of your ancestors that were in these wars. Now, they just told you that they have the documentation of everything because it goes back to what? The pensions. These are what the trusts are under. Pension and the bounty and land warrants, right? All right. Tory, exactly. Oh man, exactly. I appreciate it, brother. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the information. I wanted to make sure I put something important on these bills since I'm not able to go on my channel. As you guys know, I have been blocked for a week, so I won't be able to go live until next week on my channel, my original channel, where we do everything at. So we are going to try and get this channel up. So if that happens again, everyone will still be able to come over here. Let's see. Were those cards stolen, right? There's records of them. I do got some books with the records in them. Was these cards of the missing men perhaps stolen? Yeah. Sounds like a very good damn question, brother. Stolen. Because what? They were trying to hide the heresy and then taking it and putting other people's names on it. We talk about that all the time too, right? So this is part of that, right? I'm going to read this part one more time before we go down. The pension and bounty land warrant application files based on the service. The files based on the service of the Revolutionary War military and naval personnel are in the records of the Veterans Administration. They have these records. Once you find out through the selective service, you can find out if your ancestors served and pull up those records. The War Department collection of the Revolutionary War record group 93 contains two other publications related to the American Army, miscellaneous number records and manuscript files in the War Department collection of Revolutionary War records 1775 through the 90s. That's an M859. Special index to the numbered records in the War Department collection of Revolutionary War records. These records it's really weird because it's like they try to hide them because these records should be available. You have to really hunt. When I say I had to hunt and find some of these records, like literally, like I've been looking for these records for a while and I'm just able to find them within the last week. Okay. This is very important. Check it out. International and Indian treaties are among the general records of the United States government. International and Indian treaties are among the general records of the government. Record Group 11 and the Indian treaties have been reproduced at ratified Indian treaties the Indian treaties have been reproduced as ratified Indian treaties 1722 to 1869, M668. Ledgers and other physical records of the government of the Revolutionary War period are among the records of the Bureau of Accounts, Treasury. They have all of the records. This is how they're able to tie everything back to the name and back to the resources and back to the pensions and the trusts, so on and so forth. I keep telling you guys about this. Record group number 39, the records of the Bureau of the Public Department, and the record 53, the general records of the Department of Treasury, record group 56, and the record of the United States General Accounting Office, record group 217. The introductory remarks was written by Mary Allen. Now, let's go ahead and get into a few of these records. All right. This is the appendix of it. A list of the organizations, numbered in parentheses, are each of the military organizations, indicate the roles on which the records relating to this particular organization can be found, going from the first and so on forth unto all the 26th, 27th Regiment, the Armand Independent Corps Light Dragons, the Baldwin Regiment, which is artificers, Clark's Company, which is artillery, the Foreman's Regiment, and the Gist Regiment. So on and so forth. You guys can see, I'm not gonna go through all of them. The Captain's Montours Company of Delaware Indians, Canadian Volunteers. I don't even want to get into that, get to talking about that, because it makes me think of this cartoon and I don't remember the name, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Artificers and other employed by Brig General James Clinton at Forts Constitution and Montgomery of Hudson River. We just read about George Clinton. Here is General James Clinton at Forts Constitution and Montgomery on Hudson River, August the 1st through December the 1st of 1776. Okay. Militia, chaplains. Okay, hold on. I'm going to get to one of these other records. This is showing all the regiments. Excuse me, guys. This is showing all the regiments here. Oh my goodness, I guess there's something in my chest. Church, look, the Church's Regiment. Y'all see this, right? Church's Regiment, Captain James Cannon's recruits. I don't want to skip too far. I'm trying to get to the first record. Showing, it shows all of them. Shows that the time, the day, 11th Regiment, some of the captains. This actually shows some names. You may have an ancestor that was a captain in these areas. Here's Rhode Island. It just keeps going on and on. But I'm going to get to some of the names on the records. Just a moment. I'm going to skip too far, because as soon as I skip too far, I'm going to go ahead. So hold on, guys. We let it catch up. They sure don't be wanting to just put the information clearly. I got to wait while it's loading. Hidden for a reason, we already know. Yes, brother, definitely mind-blowing facts. I've been wanting to go over this, but I figured this was a perfect time. I knew it wouldn't be a whole bunch of people over here in the chat. I can get this information out because this will need at least like 8 to go over all the records that I have. It's gonna need I'll have to do like I can't even say how many builds. I can't even say how many builds. There are so many freaking records. Okay, now let's get to it. It's just acting so stupid. Like, why is it doing it? Come on. Stop playing. Okay, here we go. There we go. Let me get a little. Man, these are some of the records. This is I cannot read his name. I know it's Joseph something Imlef. He's from the 8th Virginia Regiment, Revolutionary War. If anyone can read this name, let me know. Man, that cursive writing was horrible, brother. Like, he can write. Whoever wrote it. Parvoke, I believe it is. This is this card number, 357877783. I can't really read his name, unfortunately. Some of them are so faded out. Dang. This is not the one I thought I had pulled up. The other one does not look like this. It's not as faded, but it's actually a little different the way that it's set up. This is the company payroll of the organizations that are named above for the month of May 1777. This is showing the amount was paid. Wow, this is really light, guys. I could barely see some of this. Okay, here we go. We see John Angle. Here's a Mr. Angle. John Angle. He was a sergeant. John Angle. Engle. John Angle. If you have an Angle in your family, you might want to look this information up. He was a sergeant. He was a sergeant, and he was in the, repeat that, he was in the 8th Virginia Regiment. John Angle, if you have a family member. Okay, let's go. Oh, these are looking much better. Okay, maybe I didn't see that first one. That was so bad. Robert Enos. Robert Enos, another one from the 8th Virginia Regiment. I'm gonna try to go through these quickly so we can get to some of the other states, guys. Because this is page 38, and this is like 1,287 pages. So there's so many records in here. I'm not gonna be able to go through all of them, but I'll try and speed through them without talking as much as I usually do. We have John Ireland from the 8th Virginia Regiment. He has a few cards, actually 12 cards with information. He must have been had a good ranking. Let's see. Just talking about his role, something from May. So he was in there for a while. The 8th Regiment. This is John's record as well. Let's see. The next one should be his second record from November of 77. And it says October of 77. Mr. Ireland, August of 77. He was getting paid, right? I think it's the 6th record here. This is September of 77. October of 77, also John Ireland. And this should be the last one. This is September as well. Pay per month, 6 2/3. Time of service, 1 month. So every month he was getting paid 6 2/3 of a dollar, not quite $7 each month. Okay, that must have been the 6th record. Then here's one for August 77, the same thing. Here we go again. Roll dated July. This is July through August. Enlisted. This is when he first enlisted. Let's see. Man, it said 8 rolls. Didn't I go through 8 already? Goodness gracious. July. Oh man, Mr. Ireland got a lot. Let's skip forward. Hold on, I'm gonna have to skip because I don't want to keep going through that. I thought it said he only had 8 rolls, but obviously there's more. All right. Okay, this is Larry Jackson. We have a Mr. Larry Jackson out of Virginia of the Revolutionary War. Hold on 1 second. Yes, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Larry Jackson out of Virginia. Mr. Isaac Jackson, 8th Regiment out of Virginia, Revolutionary War. It says he was a private. Looks like some of his information is missing as well. No papers. Where's his papers? They just took all the shit out of there so somebody else could use it, dipping in and probably taking over, anything that was from his pension. Isaac Jackson, private. So he's got quite a few card numbers. So there should be plenty of information. You see all these card numbers he's got? 39 card numbers. So there should be plenty of information on him, right? Let's see. Yep, there you go, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson. They got his rolls on here. His records aren't missing. I'm surprised because he got quite a few of them. Let's fast forward. We got quite a few. Let me check with the chat. Are you guys understanding this? Let me see. Hodge laughing. What's funny, Hodge? Because he got all these records. Okay, we have Richard Jenkins. Dang, that name sounds familiar. Richard Jenkins out of Virginia, the 8th Regiment, Revolutionary War. Captain George Slaughter's company of the 8th Virginia Regiment of Foot Commandments. Rich Jenkins. He got quite a few. That's a known name. I don't know where I know that name, but I've heard that name quite a few times. Richard Jenkins. If anyone's familiar, please put it in the chat. We have Augustus Jennings, 8th Virginia Regiment, Revolutionary War. Oh man, he's got 34 cards. He was another one that was like battling. Look at this. Let's fast forward. Let's get to some other names because he got like 40 cards himself. William Jett. Virginia line on the Continental establishment who received certificate for balance of their full pay agreeable in an act of assembly passed November session of 1781. Sounds like a pension to me. Sounds like a pension to me. Let's keep going. Oh, Jeff. I think this says Jeff Ames. Let's see. I really can't read the name, guys. Let's see if he has another record. I don't see too much on here. Yeah, I don't really see it. This is Private Benjamin Jenkins. Benjamin Jenkins. Somebody should be putting the names in the chat. Right, he had 39 records. You seen that, bro? He wasn't nothing to play with. He was like, let's go. I'm a real warrior. You know, we had some warriors that was doing this thing. Go ahead, Mr. Jenkins. What you got going on here, Mr. Jenkins? Let's see. This record is blank. John Jenkins from the 8th Regiment. He had 2 records. Probably got, you know, they sent them first in the battlefield, so you know they probably got out of there quick. Quite a few of them. John Jenkins, April through May. Roll dated. Enlisted. I think that says. I want to think it says January. Yeah, January 15th, 1777. Nope, it said he died. Let me see. Yep, he died. January the 15th of 1777. Mr. John Jenkins. Time of service, 7 something. Can't really read that part, unfortunately, guys. Jonas Jenkins. We have Mr. Jonas Jenkins, another private. He's got 1 record. Let's see if his card. Look, and the papers are in 0. Here go more missing records. I'm telling y'all what they doing with these records, changing them over, giving them to some other people so that they can get their benefits. This shit is crazy. Jones Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins. Richard Jenkins, 8th Regiment. Richard Jenkins. Augustus Jenkins. Enoch Job. Enoch. Enoch. Go on, Mr. Enoch. Enoch Job. Car expired with Job. Let's see. Isaac Job. Another private. Ooh, look at Isaac. Dang, Isaac. Wait a minute. Look at Isaac. He got 50. Isaac got 50 card numbers and probably more because it can only go up to 50 pages, up to 50 card numbers on this page. It says number of personal papers within 0. Where the fuck? I'm sorry. Oh gosh, y'all, excuse me. Where the freak is his papers? And he had 50 records. Where's his papers? Where's his papers? You know he had a large pension, right? If he had all those papers, he had a very large pension, right? More missing papers and documents for trust under people's pension because it goes back to the number that is on their card that goes back to their regiment number that'll take it to their trust and their pension, which belongs to their ancestors. It's crazy. Y'all, when I be seeing some of this stuff, it just be blowing my mind. I tell you, let me fast forward some. Go further. Get out the J's. Still in the J's. Let me go further up. So annoying. Dang, here go Job again. Enoch Job. It's the same guy, unless it's a separate one. But it says term of enlistment, April 1978. So he was in there for a minute. Sick, absent. So he was sick. He didn't die. He was sick. Let's see the previous card. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, John. This is Enoch. This is Job Enoch. This is not the same guy. Hold on, let me see. Oh, yeah, that is him. Okay, so yeah, he was sick. So he definitely had a large pension. He had a large pension. I wonder what happened to his pension. Sick. It was saying he was sick, so he probably got hurt in the war, lost a limb, something of the sort. Let's see. Johnson Bailey. Bailey Johnson, rather. Bailey Johnson. It doesn't say much about his records. Let's see what this one says. He got $6 2/3. I guess all of them got the same pay, obviously, unless they were like a general or something of the sort. Bailey Johnson, November. So he's got another record. He's got a couple of records. Okay. They kept his stuff in here because he must not have had a large pension. I think they took all those large pensions out, right? It seems like they took all the larger pensions out. Let's see. Hold on a second. Mr. Johnson. Let's see. I think this is Theo, maybe. I can't even read that. I think it may be a THE. Maybe it's a Theo. Let's see to the next one if they can get a little clearer. Same thing. No, different one. Thomas Johnston, not Johnson, but Johnston. Here go another name misspelling. Whether Johnson or Johnston. May of 78. Term of enlistment for 1 full year. So he had a nice little pension as well. Yep. He had a nice little pension. Yep. He was in there for a whole year. Okay, let's forward. Let me check with my chat just in case you guys are saying anything. Right. The personal papers for, it says 0. 0 means it's no records. Those are the stolen records. Yes, a lot of Jenkins, brother. Lots of Jenkins. Those are the stolen records. It's crazy. Let's check this. I want to check this other record, guys. Hold on a second. I'm going to go to a different one real quick. Just so we can see if these records are looking very similar as far as a bunch of them missing. Let me see. We can go past the first part. We're going to go to this, let me go to Connecticut. Okay, I'm going to start like right here. I ain't going to pick a page, just catch one. Okay, let's go. I'm going to do a little bit more of this, guys, and then I'll be out here. I definitely want to share some of this, some of these documents with you guys. So, okay. This is from Connecticut. Let me try to zoom it in a little more. It says the balance that were due these people. This is John Lehman, appears with the rank of private on a payroll. The balance due to Captain Buell's company, the 1st Connecticut Regiment for the year of 1783. We have Mr. John Lyman, and it's showing the amount was paid per month, $6.60, 67.30. Look how they have the money down just like the military time. That's crazy, really absurd, right? Okay, let's see. Look at this. Ezra Lee. This is Ezra Lee. Dang, look at Mr. Lee cards filled up too. Ezra Lee from the 1st Connecticut Regiment. So they were the 1st regiment. Wow, look at all of the papers. Look at all the cards he's got. Look at all the cards he's got. Over 50 cards. Here's another one, over 50 cards. Mr. Ezra Lee, copied from the rolls. October the 11th of 1776. Promotion, let's see. Casualties. Promoted. Dang, I cannot read this. It's saying he had some type of casualty. I don't know what, but y'all seen the record, man. He had plenty of records. Let's see if it says anything on these other ones that we could read. No remarks on there. No remarks on there. It's not saying, it's just saying basically he had an injury. Ezra Lee. Mm. All right, let's skip forward. This is Connecticut, guys. We were in Virginia earlier. Now we are in Connecticut. Still, dang, I fast forwarded it and it's still like he's got so many records. He had like 50 records, right? Let me see. Let me go up again. All right, now here's another Lee, Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee, out of Connecticut. If you have family out of Connecticut, the Lee family, Mr. Stephen Lee. The second person, Ezra Lee. Stephen Lee. We have a Stephen Lee out of Connecticut. If you have a family in Connecticut or from Connecticut, the Lee family. Stephen Lee, Stephen Lee, Stephen Lee. He's got quite a few records as well. Let's see. Oh, yeah, he had quite a few records as well. These people all have pensions and everything that are in your name. This shit pissed me off. It's just so crazy that we just let these people continue to do this mess, man. Just get away with taking anything and everything from you, including your name and your heresy and everything that your ancestors died for. So Lee family out of Connecticut, you definitely have a person that was in the Continental War. Thomas Leeds, Leeds. I know a lead. I know someone that has the last name of Leeds. I gotta check this out so I can send them this information. He was enlisted for 3 years, 77, 78, probably 79. Thomas Leeds. Okay, let's go. Leeds family out of Connecticut. If you have a Leeds in your heresy, out of Connecticut. Let's see. Leeds. Man, it's a lot of a lot of records on the Leeds. Thomas Lee, all kind of Leeds. Lewis family. Bezdert Lewis. Oh my gosh. Let's try and see if we can read it on the next card. Bazalil. Bezaleel. Bazalil Lewis. Lewis family out of Connecticut. You have a pension under your ancestor. Lewis family out of Connecticut. You have a pension under your ancestors. Let me see who else I could find. Valentine Lewis. Oh, these are typed out. These are getting a little better here. Oh, that's just showing the actual beginning of the records. Okay, so let's see. Let me go back. Valentine Lewis. Okay, so this is just his record. So Valentine Lewis is talking about everything with him. Let's see. He got a vest. He had a coat. He had brown breeches. He had white breeches, one of each. He had 2 shirts and 8 shirts. Or maybe that's a smaller shirt. One of those. He had holes, which I'm sure is assume is socks. 2 pair, 1 hat, and 2 pair of shoes. Amount received in clothing $38. Allowance in lien of clothing $47. Wow, this is crazy. They don't give them amount for stuff they need to fight in the battle. That sounds nuts. Appears on the photostatic copy of the roll of of Captain James Eldridge. He was under Captain James Eldridge of the Revolutionary Roll. Peekskill. Volin Lewis. Private. Let's see. Let's go up. Let's see if we can get some other names here before we get out of here. Libby. I'm going to skip 4 guys because I'm about to get ready to get out of here. But I want you guys to be able to get a few of these names in here. Libby family. Litchfield family. Little family. Jonathan Little. William Little. Skip forward some. Josiah Lockwood. Lockwood family. Robert Song, the Song family. Robert Song. Oh, he had quite a few records. Go ahead, Robert. Dick Loomis. Oh my gosh, I know that name. Dick Loomis. Who else is familiar with that name? I definitely am familiar with that name. Where? I don't know where from. Dick Loomis, Sam Loomis, Abner Lord, Elijah Lord, James Lord. The whole family was in there. Damn. James Lord. He had a large record as well. James got a large record. I went through like 100 records. James Lord, he's still going. Wow. I'm gonna get into that the next time. Definitely gonna check out Mr. Lord. I'm gonna have to leave this page on him. Samuel Lord, the Lord family. Oh my gosh, this is all the kings. I gotta stop right here, guys, because I gotta do some more in depth into this because I didn't even recognize that before. Well, guys, I wanted to definitely get in here, do something just to make sure you guys know that I am thinking about you, even though I am blocked on my other page. I will be coming over here this week just to make sure I'm putting some information out. And wow, this is blowing my mind. The Lord family. Oh my gosh, John Lord. Hold on, John Lord. Where's John at? Because he got 1,000. James Lord. Look at this. This man got so many records, it don't make no sense. He got so many records. James Lord. It says master of the 1st Connecticut Regiment commanded by Colonel Josiah Starr. Oh, wow. This person is like phenomenal in our history, guys. This is crazy. The Lord family. Yes, James Lord. The Lord family. Man, y'all, I'm finna get into a little bit of this information. I definitely got to go into and dig into with this. I hadn't noticed this name before. I was just kind of browsing through some of the books, but when going to this, it was a reason we came to this page. James Lord, and you guys saw all the Lord family. This is like the royalties. We definitely gonna get into that. The Lord family. Period. The Lords. This is crazy. Peace, love, and bliss, guys. I am out. I will be getting with you guys tomorrow, possibly. Yeah, I'll probably, tomorrow I'll probably be doing something. If I can, I'll be doing something with you guys tomorrow. If not, me and Empress plan on doing the build Monday, and I will be talking with you guys then. Peace, love, bliss. I am out. I hope you guys enjoyed the programming. We're definitely going to be going. I think that's what I'm going to do this next week. I'll be going over different records from the different areas. Dealing with the Continental records, dealing with the Black frontiersmen that were ex-Africans, slaves or indentured servants that came over, so on and so forth. There's some information I want to go over on that. So this is the topic I'm going to try and stick to while dealing with the Life Coach channel this week. And just make sure you guys are full of information. Definitely, brother. Of course, it's my pleasure. Peace, love, and bliss to everybody. And until next time, have a good one. And you guys so high. Peace and bliss.